All right. So,
Setting the timer. Okay.
so I'm supposed to be filming a monologue video for Visual Data. Suggested topics. Describe moments where you were sad, angry, happy, excited, embarrassed. Okay. One time I was sad. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she would come around a lot to my house. Shared with a couple guys, and we started getting like drifting a little bit from one another, and kind of felt like after about a year or so, things were just kind of not working out, and there was specifically a few instances where it was very obvious that this wasn't going to happen, that we were going to have to break up. But we still kind of felt to, keep giving it a shot, keep giving it a try. So one day, kind of like out of nowhere, we got into a big fight, and then she decides that we should just take a break from one another. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but it's kind of like anybody that has had that happen, where their significant other says, "Hey, let's just take a break from one another and just live our own solo stuff, at least for a minute." When you hear that, if you've been in a situation like that, then you know what that kind of means. It's basically usually the beginning of the end for that situation. And I stupidly just went along with it because I was a dumb college kid who was pretty fed up, at that point, with her, annoyed with her. So I said, fine, let's take a break, and I'll focus on my studies or whatever. And yeah, she started to talk to my one friend, who was my roommate, and I knew that he liked her because he had gone after her, but when I was basically, she was single, and me and him were both single, and we both liked her. So we, I knew that he liked her, and then he had started talking to her while we were on a break, and I guess they started hanging out, and you probably know where this story's going. I find out we stop the break, we get back together, but something feels different. She's more impatient and stuff like that, and I kind of felt like she was just looking for a reason to be upset and angry. And then she broke up with me, and then she said, a week goes by, and I hear little rumbles of people around me or whatever. I hear people talking, and I'm like, okay, this just feels weird. And we have a particularly messy conversation, post breakup, where we're still trying to talk through things, but we're still super angry at each other. And the end of our chat ends with just an explosion of anger. Hang up on her, all that crap. Go to my buddy's room, because there's people hanging out in there. There's 4 or 5 people hanging out in there. Sit down, just want to engage in the conversations that they're having, forget about what just happened and stuff and try to move on with my night. But I see my buddy's phone light up, and he doesn't really get phone calls or text or whatever. And it's right next to me sitting there. So I pick it up and look at it, and it's her. And she says, like, he's not taking it very well, or something like that to him. And I'm like, oh, these two people are now together. Like, it's obvious. Got really angry and stormed out. A couple of my other mutual friends tried to console me and stuff, and the worst part about it was that when my other mutual friends came to, like, calm me down and blah blah blah, I quickly realized I was the last person to know. Like, everybody around me knew that this was happening, and nobody told me. So it was sad because I had to, like, reevaluate friendships, and I had to basically move on. And luckily this happened to me when I was in college, when I was developing, when I was with somebody that there was no thoughts of marriage or children or family or anything. So it was devastating for a while. Kind of just pouted in my room, and my parents would come out to go to football games and stuff, and they would know that I would just be like super depressed and sad. So I would just try to drink it off, get through it. But yeah, like, there would be days. It led to me getting into a fight with the guy once because he was, like, spending an inordinate amount of time getting ready to go out. And so to me, what that says is, like, yeah, like, you're getting all cleaned up to, like, go out with my girlfriend, like, so that was the only physical altercation I've ever been in. It was weird, man. So we fought in the bathroom until two of the guys settled us down, and he left to go on his date, and I just stayed with them, and we were drinking and hanging out and stuff, and he came back later, and I was so drunk and didn't care that I, like, pretended to, like, still be angry and want to fight still. But then, like, stupidly made it into a joke. I don't know why I did that, but basically, as the days went by, I met other people. I started going to shows, and little by little, like, my care for that event kind of faded. I didn't really see it as, something that was as devastating. A big part of it was going online, and there's a lot of people online that can help you out, and they say, like, what do I do? I just got out of a big relationship, and I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what to do with my free time. I don't like being alone at night. What do I do? And the people online they pretty much always say that you need to better yourself. You need to work out, learn stuff, learn something new, go to a place you haven't gone to and stuff. And that's what I started to do. I started going places, started working out, feeling better. When I started working out, I instantly started feeling better. I don't know why. There's periods of time that I don't work out. It just makes you feel better every time. But that being, working out helped. And then the advice to just go do things, like I, at that point, was very interested in, I had done a lot of poetry in high school, and out of that, I started going online to forums that were specific to like hip hop music, because I was a really big fan of hip hop music, especially when I started to recognize that there are alternative forms of hip hop that you might not see if you're just trusting what your radio shows you. And so I got really into it, and then I started going online to these forums and trying to convert my poetry into like hip hop. And I started off what was called text seeing, which is like it's like if you were to rap, but you just write it out, and then you put emphasis on certain parts of words so people know where the rhymes are when you do like complex rhymes. Anyways, but where I was going with this is that I had always had an interest in doing hip hop music, and then in high school I put together like a little tiny like compilation, 5 tracks, whatever, with my friends, and it was really cringeworthy, but that was an accomplishment. It was some fun, so I dug it, and once this thing happened with my girl, I was like, I had a bunch of free time, and so I just decided to dive face first into making music again, and getting into the local music scene. Started going to open mics. For like 8 months, I went to the open mic at this place called the Blue Fugue for every Monday, and just getting my stage presence up, where I was, I used to stand there with my hand in my pocket, looking down, just all the worst body language, and I just, started getting, tips and tricks. I started meeting people. I started doing some collaboration work. I started networking. Started making albums. Started to get on shows that weren't open mics, and it was that sort of motivation that just came out of it that I'm very thankful for, because to this day I'm still basically doing the music stuff. I just recorded another song for a single with my buddy yesterday, and then I have tour dates at the end of this month that I'm excited about, and we're working on September tour dates. We're gonna release a single in September, early September, and we're gonna release the full project late September. And it's just like some good work down the pipeline, and I definitely would never have been in any sort of situation to do this sort of stuff if not for that sort of heartbreak up front, and so moral of that story is to try to take the bad situations and see what opportunities open up because of those bad situations, and try to pursue that. I might be a failure, it may all be for nothing, but at the end of the day, jobs are jobs. Like, you can get fired from any job on any particular day. You could be demoted, you could be switched around, like, unless you own the business, and even if you do own the business, it still is out of your control as to the demand of the consumers and rise of automation and all of that, like health insurance and stuff. So everything is, kind of teeter-tottering regardless of what you do. So to me, that kind of takes the pressure off, because what do I care if I fail at this music stuff, or I fail at my paintings, or if I fail at as an author, like I put out a book, and I wouldn't say it's wildly successful, but it's an accomplishment. But if I'm regarded as a failure in any of these things, I don't really care, because it's better than being a failure at management. It's better than being a failure at HR. For me, because I don't really care about those things. I care about this music stuff. I care about the art and writing and prose and conversation and thoughts and philosophy. And this is truly the place that I want to be, given those, my tendency to like those types of things. I've been painting since I was very little. I would show you my paintings, but this video is not about that. I understand. Let's see. What's another? Describe moments when you were excited, embarrassed, or other things give you emotional response. And I was excited when I left Kansas City, where I was trying to run a studio. When the studio collapsed ultimately, because we had 4 people working into it that all wanted different things. I just wanted to run a studio. My buddy Ray wanted to make a whole bunch of money off it. My buddy Dom wanted to get more people in there and more projects going on. So there was like a lot of stuff that was stretching the ends of this rope that caused the studio to collapse. And because it fell and we weren't able to support it anymore, I really didn't have a reason to stay in Kansas City anymore. I'd lived in Missouri my whole life, and going to Kansas City was purely a business move. My label's there, we were trying to get the studio going there, but at the end of the day, people weren't coming out to see me there anymore than they would see me anywhere else. I would go on the road. I have more people show up in Columbus, Ohio than I do in Kansas City, where I was living. So I'm like, if I'm not going to see the benefit of staying here, then why don't I just pick a city? Just came to me one night, pick a city. So I started to count down where I would live. It was between Minneapolis, New York, Denver, Vancouver, and it was a crazy Norway kind of pick in there. I ultimately settled on